This podcast is a proud member of Pod Nation Media Network.
Welcome to Franchise Addicts, the podcast that covers every film in a given franchise. My name is Luke.
And I'm Peter, and get your gas masks! Get your gas masks! You're gonna need them for a big chunk of this movie. It's kind of a stinker. You're gonna need it. I figure I'd make a little bit of money on some of the disaster parts of this movie, but forget it. Let's talk about this great movie, boys. Let's do it.
And then we are joined by a special guest, Zach, from Zach on Art House on TikTok is how I know you.
Hey,
Zach, welcome to the show.
Of course. Thanks for having me on. I'm super excited to get into some Spielberg here.
Yeah, some great Spielberg. Peter already tipped his hand that he might be the negative Nancy for this particular movie. Chris and I are doing... We did our own part of the episodes since Chris wasn't able to join us right now. And so stay tuned to the back half of this if you want to listen to me and Chris talk about it. Chris was very positive about the movie, so we should at least have 3 people that are into this. Peter, you get to be the kind of salt to our water.
Totally fine. Yeah, I thought some things about this movie when I watched it years ago, and then I was like, maybe I need to watch it more carefully, and then I did, and some thoughts changed, some thoughts stayed the same. We'll eventually get into it.
And I haven't even introduced what movie we're covering, but today we are covering Steven Spielberg's follow-up to the original blockbuster Jaws, 1977's Close Encounters of the Third Kind. So we are doing kind of a create our own franchise in anticipation for Disclosure Day coming out in about a month or so. So we are covering it's not each decade since the 70s, but pretty darn close. So Close Encounters 1977. Then we're going to jump to the 90s and do Independence Day. Then we are going to be covering 2009's District 9, 2016's Arrival, and then capping it all off with Disclosure Day. So that's going to be our franchise we are creating ourselves and running all the way through. But we start with kind of the granddaddy of them all, Close Encounters, 1977. Steven Spielberg, he's back on the show. We did Indiana Jones over Christmas, and he doesn't have a lot of other franchises. Jurassic Park's still out there. But it is cool to be able to cover another big Spielberg early movie. I think this movie looks incredible for its age. So, Zach, what was your first encounter with Close Encounters?
Yeah, I got into film pretty late in life. Like, I had seen all of the Star Wars and Marvel stuff beforehand, but as far as non-intellectual property based films, it was around the pandemic when I first started getting into movies like that, and that coincided with the first time I saw Encounters. I think that was roughly 2022, maybe 2023, the first time I saw the film. And at that point, I think I landed closer to what I presume Peter's opinion is, where I was just this is a pretty middle-of-the-road Spielberg. I found it to be a bit slow and just not super engaging in the way that he normally is, which I now sort of view as a positive of this film. But yeah, so just in the last few years was the first time I really got around to it, and it was really nice to get a rewatch on it.
Peter, your first interactions with Close Encounters?
I was familiar with parts of it years ago. Everyone knows the however many notes that John Williams put together, the 5 notes, and it's so fascinating how he chose to end the last note in a question. It's a conversation. There's some genius stuff in this movie, John Williams being one of them. And then I watched it a couple of years ago, and I just found myself getting distracted with laundry and dishes in the middle of the movie. And it's the kind of exact same thing that happened to me when I watched it on this one. I did not get distracted. I watched the whole movie all the way through. But here is generic kind of take is that we've got Spielberg in the first third. We got his random cousin Sven Spielberg in the middle, and then Spielberg returns again at the end of the movie. I don't know what is going on in the middle of the movie. I was disappointed with that part. But that's my kind of overall take of this movie.
Yeah, so Close Encounters for me, I had seen it years and years ago, and then anytime that I've caught this, either on TV or someone watching it where I'm at, I usually only see the last 45 minutes to an hour of it. So Obviously, that to a lot of people is considered the best part of the movie, is kind of the close to it. Weird that a movie is lauded for its ending. Most movies are lauded for everything but the ending, but this one is especially lauded for its ending. And then kind of went through a weird cycle when it was first released. So Spielberg was tapped to do he wanted to do this movie. He finally got the funding for it. And they kind of rushed the theatrical release in 1977 to piggyback off of Star Wars: A New Hope. And so you get the theatrical version then. In 1980, they re-release it and they do the special edition, bring it back into theaters, and that's where you get the scene where Dreyfuss is actually on the ship. You see the interior, and that's the big change. The studio wanted that to be added. They had heard from some audience members that it might be cool to see the interior of the ship. They asked Spielberg, what could you add to kind of juice up the movie for the re-release? He decided to do that. Then he comes back in 1996 for the director's cut and is like, I think kind of the magic of the movie is not seeing the interior of the ship, keeping everything kind of in the awe and wonder stratus, and takes that out, adds more of the family dynamics, the downfall of Dreyfuss, the kind of, him losing his mind that maybe you don't care for in the middle of the movie, Peter, but that's kind of the trajectory of the movie. Yeah.
Here's my question about those special edition interior shots. I haven't seen it, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to imagine that it's just like the movie Fire in the Sky, and it's absolutely terrifying, and there's creepy aliens with little wrinkled eyes and stuff, and they're putting coverings over his face and nearly suffocating him to death, and he's tumbling around in anti-gravity, and there's other bodies in pods and things like that. Is it anything like that?
I have no idea. So I've only seen the theatrical and the directors. I've never seen the special edition. I've never seen the interior shots. I've never had a desire to see them. Peter, you said you watched the directors for this rewatch too. Zach, do you know which versions you've seen?
I was actually just looking at the runtimes. I believe I watched the director's cut because the full version I watched was 2 hours, 17 minutes.
Yep, that's what I watched. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I believe the special is just a little bit shorter, theatrical shorter than that also. So, yeah, have you seen the interior shots?
No, I haven't seen that version of it.
Okay.
I think the first time I saw it, it was once again, it was probably the director's cut the first time I saw it as well.
I think the director's cut, since its release, has kind of been the definitive movie. Obviously, that's usually where it ends up landing sometimes. A lot of people do get nostalgic for what they saw in theaters, but I think since 96, it's basically been like, go watch the director's cut. That's what was intended.
I get questions about little specific things with the aliens in the end. There's one shot. The first alien that you see is so awesome and creepy looking.
The marionette.
He's got like a barrel of a torso and these weird long arms and legs, and I loved it. And then you didn't see him anymore, and then just the little children aliens came out, and I wanted to see more of that creepy guy. That was cool.
I think he's kind of coming off of Jaws with the idea that if you can't quite do the special effects for the monster, show the monster as little as possible. So yeah. I think it's effective with the amount that he uses it.
I get it. I thought he was wonderfully creepy. Really good.
Yeah, and this movie, 1977, Spielberg coming off of Jaws. He then does 1941 after to...
I remember seeing that when I was a kid. I enjoyed it, but yeah, it's not good.
Yeah, definitely considered probably his worst movie that he made. And then the rebound back to Raiders. Quite a run for old Spielberg from the 70s through the 80s. This movie is, like you said, it is a slow burn. It is following a middle-aged man and him slowly losing his mind because of aliens coming to Earth and becoming obsessed with them. But there is a lot of stuff in this movie that we see in later movies about alien invasions that become tropes. You know, the government kind of being secretive about it all, the cover-ups, and that usually is the main focus. And this movie actually had a screenplay written by Brian De Palma, and it was more along those lines as a government conspiracy movie, and he handed it in to Spielberg. Spielberg says it's the worst script that he's ever received. And it's just like, this cannot be. And Spielberg, actually, this is one of the 3 movies that he directed that he took a writing credit for. Apparently, he was coming up with stuff kind of on the fly, shooting ideas and stuff like that. I think there's like 4 credited screenwriters, including him on it.
It's only him on this one.
Is it only him?
This is only Spielberg. This, and I was looking into this. This and AI are the only films where he's the only credited screenwriter.
Yeah, and then Fabelmans, he has a co-credit.
Yes. Yeah.
So AI, didn't Stanley Kubrick start that and Spielberg finished it? How does that one work?
There was like, I believe either like half the script or a full script that Kubrick had, and then Spielberg went through and just rewrote it all. So like there might be a like a story by credit for Kubrick on that film, but that one is also just like fully written and directed by Spielberg.
Another Kubrick connection is that he loved the kid who played Barry, Cary Guffey, so much from this movie that he wanted him to play Danny Torrance in The Shining. And the kid took another role and decided to pass on The Shining.
Man,
That's wild.
missed out on that one.
Yeah, obviously with hindsight, that's definitely a choice. Do you know like
Pointless.
what role he took?
If I heard it, I would know it, but yes.
Yeah.
He decided against it. I'm sure his parents probably didn't want him to be in a horror movie or something like that, Close Encounters. So then The Shining would have been a crazy 1-2 punch for a kid actor. But yeah, a lot of the stuff with Cary and how Spielberg got the performance out of him, this is credited as like one of the best kid performances in a movie that you'll see. I think that's because most kid performances are pretty garbage because they're kids.
Is this the kid who there's kind of a close-up shot of Dreyfus and the kid is at the kitchen table with him just starting to cry? Is that him?
That's a different actor. I'm talking about the little kid that gets abducted.
That kid was good too.
That kid is incredible. That whole set piece specifically is just truly impeccable.
We'll get there because I think it'll come up either on Best Scene or as we're going through the rest of the movie. So the movie opens, I compared it to The Exorcist a little bit, where you're just kind of thrown into the world. You're not seeing your main characters yet. Now, these guys will be continuation throughout the rest of the movie, so it's not like you just see them and then they're gone. But it opens on a desert scape, and there's sand blowing everywhere, and people are shouting over each other. We get Bob Balaban before Raiders just showing up with a beard, speaking French. We've got the director, Francois Truffaut, just being in the movie. A big pull from Spielberg to get that famous of a director who had never had an acting credit before to just play a character in this.
Well, he'd acted in a lot of his own films.
Oh, in his own films, but in
Yeah.
other people's films, yes.
Yeah, like he'd never like just been an actor in a film before, and it seems almost it feels almost like Spielberg calling a shot of just like, this is the guy like I look up to almost.
For sure. Well, a lot with in the Fabelmans, he gets Lynch to be John Ford in that film.
Yeah.
So using another director to play a director. Truffaut kind of plays the director of this movie in that he's kind of the government's liaison for what to do with all this crazy stuff that's happening. And I there's those scenes, so I want to talk about that to begin with. The scenes that are non-Dreyfus, non-Indiana, that type of stuff. Just that kind of mission the big mission to make this a more broad movie. I think there's a lot of special stuff happening at the start of the movie with those types of scenes.
Are you tired of the coffee crash? Still jittering an hour after your morning cup of coffee? Listen, I used to drink 5, 6, 7 cups a day to just keep going. The anxiety, the stomach pains, the afternoon crash, it was brutal. Then I discovered Rise Coffee, and everything changed. Rise has less than half the caffeine as regular coffee, but here's the magic. It contains 6 organic mushrooms, including cordyceps, lion's mane, and others that naturally sustain your energy without the jitters or crash. We're talking sharper focus, immune support, better gut health, and calm, sustained energy that lasts all day. Plus, it's organic, vegan, and has 0 added sugars. Unlike other mushroom coffees, Rise is USA grown in California. A full spectrum of mushrooms per serving that actually works. Here at Pod Nation, We only partner with brands we actually believe in, and Rise Coffee is the real deal. Head to risesuperfoods.com and use promo code PODNA15 for 15% off your order. That's PODNA 15 for 15% off. Ditch the crash. Fuel your day the right way with Rise Coffee.
I think that Spielberg's fingerprint is just all over the way that these are shot, just establishing the chaos and the mystery and the wonder of these guys. Frankly, the globe-trotting CIA agents, whatever you want to call these guys, who are going around to different parts of the world. This was one of my favorite things in the movie, and frankly, I wanted more of that, and like different scenarios. So they got two different mysterious reappearances of ships or airplanes. You've got in India, where you're discovering that they were given the secret musical language. Like, I could have used at least one more scene of these guys going to a new location and finding something out. I loved it.
I would agree that, like, I think those scenes are, like, really, really special. And kind of like you said, Luke, where it feels like The Exorcist more, like, obviously visually, you can look at any shot in a Spielberg movie and you're like, this is Steven Spielberg, just because of how his camera moves. But, like, pacing-wise and how the movie just, like, doesn't hold your hand, like, that feels more like a new Hollywood 70s film. Like a lot of Friedkin's work, especially, where it's just not, like, you're either on or you're not. And even if, like, you're not totally clued into what's going on there, like, by the end, you are fully aware of their plot and kind of where all of that lands.
Yeah,
you mean it's not like a Netflix movie where they like
they don't describe the plot.
Repeat stuff of like what is happening and what they've done and what they have to do every few minutes. It's not like that, is it?
Yeah, which I think is like a big plus of this film as a whole, where it feels like maybe the least didactic Spielberg's ever been. He's generally, like, I think, really good at giving information. Like, you look at or doing exposition, like you look at that second scene or whatever in Raiders of the Lost Ark when they're in the school and they're kind of telling Indy what his mission's going to be. It's obviously incredibly well done there, but like there's just an entire like lack of that in Close Encounters, which I find really, really enticing.
Well, the beauty of the Raiders too is that he just puts those types of dialogue heavy scenes in the middle of two just crazy action set pieces. Mm-hmm. So like you're ready to take a break by the time you get to those. And I mean, watch Close Encounters and Raiders back to back. You will, like, they are talking to each other. They are so clearly the same director. He is so clearly pulling moves from Close Encounters, amping them up a little bit more for Raiders. But that kind of world traveling, it sounded to me like, Peter, you just wanted to watch an Indiana Jones movie about aliens. He basically made the better version of Kingdom of the Crystal Skull in Close Encounters.
That's my favorite one. Get out of here. Get lost. No, just kidding.
I've never really thought about this film in relationship to Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, but just like narratively, it is doing a very similar sort of thing.
Yeah,
Spielberg loves aliens, doesn't he?
He does. The same thing that he's doing with Dreyfus a little bit, obviously, that Harrison Ford then just takes to like godlike levels, is that you have a main character who he has some good qualities, he has some bad qualities, he's captivating to look at and to watch and have him interact with other people and to move through the plot of the movie. But like it is a conflicted character, and I mean, Dreyfus is absolutely out of control good in this movie. But I think that he also does a great job with those opening set pieces of getting good actors in those positions. Like I was saying, Balaban, Truffaut. I don't know the names of the actors, but shout out especially to, I really enjoy the air traffic control scene.
I made a note specifically about that scene.
Where you have this shot on this guy doing all that stuff, but people keep popping their head in, like, because they're interested in what's going on. And then to close that scene out where the guy is like, hey, do any of you want to make a report about this UFO? And all the pilots are just like, no, not really. And you get the impression that, like, at the time in this movie, when you talk about UFOs, you're considered a crazy person and people don't want anything to do with you. And it builds also in that history of ufology in 1970.
That was Carl Weathers.
Is that Carl
Oh,
Weathers?
was
Yes,
it?
it's Carl Weathers.
Wow.
No way.
Yeah.
I did not recognize him at all. And I
I,
am really good with faces.
yeah, he's obviously so much younger than you normally
Yeah.
have seen him. I remember, yeah, I saw him in that scene. I was like, I know this. Like, it was more the voice, I think, than anything. I was like, I know this voice from somewhere, and I looked it up, and I was like,
and
oh, okay, that makes sense.
our boy Lance Hendrickson is in 5 seconds
Yes.
of this movie too. So he is now our. So we've covered Terminator, we've covered Alien, we've covered Predator, and now this. So this is his 4th franchise, quote unquote, that he has been a part of with us.
I was watching
Is
the
that
credits
the-
and it showed Lance Henriksen's name, and I was like, what the fuck? I missed him. But you said he was in for 5 seconds?
Yeah.
How does he get his name on the credits? That's
Sag,
pretty
baby.
good. Way to go, Lance. Good agent.
Is that the most franchises someone's been in for you?
Yes, so far,
yeah.
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 Nice.
And then obviously because we've done those 3, like Michael Bean's in all 3 of them technically,
Yeah.
because he's in Killer of Killers as a voice, and then Bill Paxton.
Nice. Yeah, Paxton, you could get him with Twisters as well.
Yeah,
You get another one there.
yes. I wanted to shout out also, Peter, you talked about it a little bit, but the scene in India where you get the first singing of the notes. I think that whole set piece is just incredible. It looks amazing. The wide shots of everything, the colors, like it is Spielberg just masters stroke right away.
Yeah, it's much like the opening scene with the blowing desert. It's noisy and chaotic, but the India scene is just the characters that we are following walking through, they're just bombarded with that sound, and it's disorienting, and because of that it really puts you with those guys, and we as the audience, we cannot figure out what is going on. Those guys as well, but there is something so compelling that is making these people all sing this song all at once, so you know that they must have seen something special, and it just the sound blasting at you was what it really put me there with those globetrotting characters. Loved it.
I love that one super wide shot when they're in India and they're like walking across that top of the cliff and everyone down below is like running, and you have just that massive crowd there. And I think it does a really good job of sort of exemplifying what's so great about this. Is like there aren't a ton of named characters in this movie. There's not many like protagonists. So you could probably narrow it down to like there's 4 like main characters in this movie. But there's like this giant push for like humanity like behind them of just like everyone wants to know what's going on here. Like everyone has some story, like Dreyfuss's character, everyone has some relationship to this. And you can kind of feel that through that movement.
Yeah, and then when they all finally coalesce at the Devil's Tower and kind of meet up, and then there's also the scene where they're kind of having the press conference, like where Dreyfuss is like, I didn't want to see this, but I did, and like you can't just tell me that it's not real. And it, like I said, it really taps into super well ufology, where it's at in the 70s. I wanted to give a shout out to the entire time I couldn't get out of my head that the Francois Truffaut character is basically just Jacques Vallée.
Yeah, he is. That's right.
French ufologist, and that
Real guy.
Dreyfuss is kind of a caricature of like Stanton Freeman and one other guy, the J. Allen Hynek, and just the legends of ufology are kind of all characterized by people in this movie.
Wow. Yeah, I hadn't really like thought about its connection to like actual, like you said, ufology before. That's really neat to think about it, because I always think about this as like more of a divorce movie, almost like the Temple of Doom for him, almost.
We'll get into that.
Yeah.
So J. Allen Hynek was actually the person that popularized the stages of contact with alien. So his first stage is just sighting, second stage is physical evidence, and then third is actual contact. So that's why this is of the third kind.
So this
is actual contact.
This is the one thing that I have heard about this movie as it is pertaining to J. Allen Hynek, is that this movie is apparently incredibly accurate about some of the portrayals of not necessarily the UFOs themselves, but the lights, that the way that they move, they split into separate lights, they re-emerge back into a single light, and then the one thing that I think Spielberg does a great job of conveying is just the emotional response from the people who have had the just drastic encounters with these things, that they were either affected while they were seeing it and they got some kind of new insight, or it became obsessive to them afterwards in some kind of emotional response. And I think they cover that just so well in his kind of descent into madness, his obsessiveness with this. That's what I heard, is that it's very accurate. So it was really cool.
Yeah, and as we go through our made-up franchise and talk about different alien and invasion movies, I wanted to just highlight some specific themes that we get within alien invasion movies. So the themes that I picked out for Close Encounters are wonder and obsession, because they kind of go hand in hand here. This isn't an alien attack the Earth type of movie. This is just a sighting, then the encountering when the ship finally comes to land and stuff like that. This is not about a world versus the aliens battle. This is more wonder. This is something brand new has come into the world, and that wonder for some of the characters turns into obsession. And with that, we can get into the Dreyfus of it all. Are Roy Neary, great movie name, Roy Neary, his family, his dynamics, how it relates to Spielberg, and how he is thrust into this new world and his reaction to it. So, Zach, talk to me a little bit about your impressions of the first sighting by Dreyfus, everything that happens kind of that night and leading into his relationship with his family during the middle of this movie.
Yeah, I think it's very interesting that immediately he is having a pretty intense conflict, like with his kids, like up front. Like he's not engaging with them in a pretty rational way, where like these kids obviously want to go play. I believe it's like golf that they're trying to go play.
Goofy golf.
Yeah, the mini golf,
Yes.
I believe, is what goofy golf is.
Yeah, and he's just like not buying that at all, and just keeps trying to pull them away from that. And then he gets called into work too, so like he's just getting pulled away, like physically away at that point from his family, when he already seems pretty emotionally unattached. And then like that first interaction with the alien, like I still don't know like how you shoot that when everything's just like flying out of the car like horizontally. It's incredibly well done, and you really buy that he is so like alone at that point. And like you mentioned with the wonder too, there's no sense of I need to get out of this car, like I can't run from this, like this is just where I'm at, and this is just what I need to like lay witness to almost. And like you said, that obviously at that point turns into obsession. And this time it felt especially like a matter of fact with his relationship with his wife, Terry Garr, where it's just like, it's kind of inevitable that they're not going to be together, that this is just too much for them to overcome, because they just don't seem totally together from the jump even.
He must have ADHD or something. He's got shit everywhere, all over the house. He's got his hobbies all over the place. He's not putting anything away. She's trying to get him to play goofy golf with the kids. He disagrees with everything she says. Yeah, that's totally it, Luke. Zach,
Yeah, and
totally
like he's playing with model trains. He wants to go to Pinocchio because it's something he did as a kid. He's almost like trying to force his family to relive his childhood in a lot of ways. Yeah, just horrible communication between him and the rest of his family. He does seem isolated. He does seem like he has an idea of himself and who he should be and what he should be doing that his family is kind of holding him back from. And seeing the alien gave him a purpose, something that he's like, oh, I am meant to be more than this. And he just kind of just runs with that immediately. Whereas, when you're thinking about this as a Spielberg movie, obviously with all the stuff that we know about the relationship with him and his parents now, especially after the Fabelmans,
Fabelmans opens up a lot of this.
Yes, to have a father character who seems disengaged from his kids, who eventually just abandons them and leaves them. And I'm sure if you could cut back to like the kids finding out about this in the newspaper or whatever, they would be like, God, Like, what happened to our dad? Like, what happened? And it is very similar to a kid going through divorce, where you don't really know what's going on. Mom and dad are fighting and screaming at each other all the time. You have the oldest son yelling, like, I hate you, I hate what you've become. And just all of that pressure. And what it leads Dreyfus to do is to run away, essentially, and to abandon his family for this higher goal that he thinks that he has. And I think for me, that's what gets me through maybe some of the slower parts of the middle of this movie is that family dynamic. And then to have the parallel of everything going on with Barry and his mom, played by Melinda Dillon, who was nominated for Best Supporting Actress. And to have them actually come together seems right, because they're both believers from a standpoint, whereas Terry Garr just does not want anything to do with it. She thinks it's affecting how people view their family, how people view Dreyfus. She gets the call from his work telling him he's fired and they don't even want to talk to him. Just a lot of family dynamics in this movie.
With Gillian and Roy too, it's really neat that they're never like trying to intentionally meet up or anything. Like there's nothing where he's like, I'm into her, I'm separating from my wife, now I need to go track her down or something like that. It's just a sort of chance coincidence that they meet each other near those train cars. And the trains obviously being like a really big visual motif throughout his career. Obviously like the Fabelmans kind of circles around to why. And then like the beginning of Close Encounters too, like the movie starts off with, at least like when he's playing like with his toys with his kids, like he's showing them like a train crash.
Yeah.
Like with normal toys.
Trying to teach by showing a train. Yeah.
Yes. So
and then being frustrated that like my teaching technique isn't working on you, kid.
Yeah.
Do you guys have kids? Because I have three boys.
No.
Yes, I have a 5.5-year-old son, and I felt that so hard where I'm trying to explain something in the way that I understood it, and my son's like, I don't know what's going on. Like, how do you not get this?
How they changed math? Why would they change math? That's not how you do math. You know, just like The Incredibles.
Zach, talk to us about, because you had mentioned it before, one of the most famous scenes from this movie is the mashed potato mountain dinner scene.
Yeah, that scene, it's like, that's the breaking point for sure, where it's just like, obviously he's been showing this interest in that mountain over and over and over again. And I think kind of like what you said, Peter, him trying to figure out like what this mountain is that he's drawing is kind of the part where it feels like a little redundant, but it does, I think, add up emotionally to this scene where he's just like piling on these potatoes over and over and over again, and it doesn't really ever build it taller. Like if you like look at his plate, it just never makes a pretty tall mountain. It just kind of builds around and just like overflows off the plate, and it's just like you're seeing all those emotions overflow as well at that point. And then obviously like that does get to a pretty incredible like set piece, I guess, if you will, where he's like throwing everything through the window, where it's like, that's so tonally out there. Like everyone's just so mad. Like now at that point, like if this movie's made today by anyone who's not Spielberg, it's probably played like for laughs. It's like, look how goofy this guy is and stuff, which is still like there in this film, and just seeing him throw bricks through his window, because it's crazy, it's insane.
And it was cute that some of the kids were just copying what he was doing.
Like the kid doing it, like that's
a
the
Spielberg
kind
moment for sure. Much like in Jaws.
Yeah, that's like the joy you find.
Yeah.
Exactly. But it does just end up in, okay, like his wife's like, I gotta go. She's like, I can't be involved in whatever this is anymore. And yeah, as much as the kind of mystery behind the mountain feels really simple, I think kind of the emotional fallout of that is what makes that second act work for me.
Well, and I love Dreyfus when he realizes that his family is just staring at him. And he kind of mumbles out like, I saw this thing. I don't know what it means. I don't know what it is. I clearly am obsessed with it, but like, Dad's still here. I'm still your dad. Like, I'm still here. And then the shot of the oldest son that you see in the background of him with like tears coming down his face, watching his dad just like have this mental breakdown. And then that transitions into him being in the shower and his wife coming in, and then the screaming match that then leads to him turning his entire living room into the mountain. One note on the mountain in the house that I thought was very funny is he's throwing everything through that kitchen window, and then he climbs up the ladder and goes through the window, almost like it's a spaceship, almost like outside to him is like the moon, and he's got to get back on the lander, and he pulls up the ladder through the window after. Like, it's just a great touch to just be like, this guy is completely out of his mind and like in a whole other world.
Yeah, like there's some way that you can justify to your neighbors putting all these things in your house. Maybe you can't really justify you going through the window as well.
I thought that scene was funny. I mean, you guys mentioned the redundancy. I just thought that this movie could have been edited down. Maybe that scene a little bit, other parts heavily, but I loved the scene at the dinner table where he's building with the mashed potatoes. And in the 70s, a man was not supposed to be weird like this. A man was not supposed to show weird emotions about this. And so the kid, it was fantastic. The kid does not know what to do with this because this is not how a father acts. A father is supposed to have everything under control emotionally and be the disciplinarian. A father is not supposed to cry. And this boy just, he doesn't know what to do with this because he's just so used to masculinity, you know, probably playing football and being tough in school and stuff like that. And maybe their father hitting them with a belt because that was normal or something like that. This kid just doesn't know what to do with that. And he's crying. And I thought it was beautiful and fantastic and just zigzagging of what a mainstream man is supposed to act like. Phenomenal acting from the kid, good acting from Dreyfuss, of course, but then I swear that scene where the wife finally leaves him, it was just too much for me. The point could have been gotten across with probably, I don't know, 2 less minutes or something like that. And then from that point on, there's a whole section of this movie that loses me. I'm just going to be honest.
I wanted to give a quick shout out when we're talking about the family dynamics and stuff like that, of the kid being like, Dad said we could watch the 10 Commandments. And he's like, I only told him 5 commandments.
Well, it's also funny too because that's another Spielberg thing where it's just another like Cecil B. DeMille movie where that was I'm blanking on which movie it was, but like Cecil B. DeMille was like the first filmmaker he ever like saw in a theater.
Yeah. Well, and there is almost always, at least in their house, a TV on in the background. And even when he's creating the mountain in the living room, you see the TV in the background where they're having a news report of people gathering at the thing that he's building. And if he could just look at the TV, it would be like, it's there, it's right there. You don't need to do this anymore.
Yeah.
It's real.
There's one shot too. I can't remember which scene it's in. But there's one shot where like a TV turns on and just for a second you see like Stagecoach and then it like cuts to black. And it's just like all these little like touches of Spielberg where it's just like, even though it is like the kind of slower, more meditative like 70s palette and mood that he's setting here, it still is like the sort of high octane Spielberg filmmaking where there's always something going on visually.
Yeah, and let's get into kind of that super fun thrust of the end of the movie, the last about 45 minutes, where Dreyfuss has abandoned his family, abandoned his boy, and he is on. Barry has been abducted. That's a very cool, probably the closest the movie gets to horror during his abduction, pulled through the dog door.
That was
that whole set piece is
that scene. This is Spielberg ghost directing Poltergeist. This is like pure Poltergeist. That whole scene is amazing. Just sounds and fog and lights through the kitchen windows and appliances moving and stuff. That's amazing. Loved it.
I think that scene too is also like, it's obviously like everything's really backlit. Everyone's in like real deep shadow, and it feels almost like the foundation for the look he's gotten for the last like 20 plus years with Janusz Kaminski, where he's always using this weird backlight and kind of playing these figures almost as just playing his characters almost just like figures like within this world. Like there is like an anonymity that he's kind of getting at here, where it's like this could be like anyone in this house.
Yeah. Well, and then he's matching scenes from earlier in the film.
Yeah.
We see the toys come to life at basically the first time we're introduced to Barry, and then the mom running after the ship and Barry from the beginning of the movie running after the ship through the fields and stuff like that. So just doing a ton of visual storytelling all the way through. So we get everyone to the Devil's Tower. We get Dreyfus meeting up with Truffaut and all those guys. They've kind of coalesced to this central point. Something is going to happen. And the ship, they get everything set up on their little base there. The ship's coming in. We have Dreyfus on the rocks, very Raiders of the Lost Ark, end of Raiders of the Lost Ark-esque, where you have our two male and female characters peering over the top, looking down as spectators, not a part of what is actually this big monumental thing going on. But where Raiders kind of keeps them at that distance till all the crazy stuff has happened, Dreyfus comes forward and becomes a part of the end of the movie. And we get a, humongous spectacle to finish this movie off.
Even before that, too, you have like the whole chase up the mountain, too, where the feds have lied to them about I believe it was a gas leak or something that they said. And so they're all trying to figure out what's real and what's fake with that. And then Dreyfus falling back down the mountain. And what was her name again?
Miranda Dillon?
Yeah, Gillian. Yeah, Gillian trying to pull him back up again. It's insane.
This was the part of the movie that I hated.
Yeah, I will say that was the part that I probably paid attention to the least. And it does because I think it's because it's in broad daylight and there's just not as many interesting visual stuff to like kind of attach yourself to. And as soon as darkness comes around again, like all of a sudden you're like right back into what the feeling of the movie should be.
This is where I swear to God, Steven Spielberg comes in. He's like, "You guys want the military guys? Sure, I can do that. You get me a helicopter? Sure, we're climbing on the rocks, falling down the rocks. You know that set that you used with the road and the UFOs flying through the road, we can reuse that set and put it with some rocks there. They're climbing the rocks, and we shoot a bunch of climbing on the rocks and running away, Then the gases, they fall asleep, they fall down sometimes, they fall back up. I don't know. Didn't like it at all. I was like, what? Like a B movie all of a sudden for a big chunk of this movie. And I feel like they didn't have enough, I don't know, just like close-ups of what the characters were going through, or they did, and it just needed lots of editing. I don't know.
Like that segment ends on like the real tight close-up of Gillian and Roy's hands like coming together, of him
Sure, yes.
almost getting over his separation in that moment and finding like kind of going back to that greater purpose he finds at the beginning of the film, reconnecting with that.
Yeah.
There's some of it just too much fluff with just generic chase scene. That's my complaint. Could have been better.
But the last 30 minutes of this movie I think is pretty unimpeachable. We get the humongous ship coming over the top. We get the bright lights. We get the conversation, the back and forth musical stuff going on between all the researchers and military people down there and the ship itself. We get a bunch of tubas. We get the dropping of the gangplank or whatever, the onboarding. What are those called?
I think in this one they just have like a door that opens up.
But there's like also a thing that lowers a ramp,
so
basically.
Steep.
Yeah,
that thing
very
was so
steep.
How did Dreyfus ascend that? Must have like a level 10 rock climber shoe on or something like that. I don't know what the hell.
We get
but
the call
dude
back
tickling
to
the
the
keys was better than
well, I was
Billy
just gonna
Preston in Get Back from the Beatles. You know what I'm saying? He's quick.
he was going for it.
Hell yeah.
We get the call back to the pilots from World War II that had been abducted, coming back. I thought that scene was pretty cool when they're giving their names and ranks and stuff like that, and being introduced to "Welcome back, Navy," and they're just like,
"What the fuck" moment for me. Horrifying. What were the aliens doing with these poor bastards for 30 years or whatever? It freaked me out.
They don't seem too much worse for the way.
Yeah, they seem to like be pretty okay, and obviously
yes,
they didn't
but they're going to
age
realize that the
at
loved
all
ones are
either.
all 30 years older.
For sure,
yeah.
it's absolutely terrifying, and I
That'd
think
be Close Encounters 2.
yeah.
we're back.
This is, I think, like that abduction scene and then this finale are like the best expressions of horror that like
Yeah.
Spielberg has ever
Big
done.
time.
Where it's just like,
Well, Jurassic Park.
I would put this over that. Like that feels more like grounded. That feels like
Yeah.
like somehow the dinosaur movie
Yeah,
is
yeah.
more grounded in reality than this. But it's just like even just like seeing the massive ship come around the mountain, you're like just like obviously like I'd seen the movie before, but it's still just like what horrors await these people here.
Yeah.
Where it's just like they're calling something that they don't know what it is.
Yeah.
Like this could be like a World of Worlds type
This could be
alien,
destruction for sure.
and they just have no clue.
Yeah. Yeah, and they're playing the songs. I wanted to give a shout out. I think I mentioned this with Chris later, but I'll shout it out again. That John Williams, who is just the GOAT, he's the greatest of all time. He does whatever he wants, and he is a man that also likes to borrow, mostly from himself. But there are themes from the score for Pinocchio, When You Wish Upon a Star,
Interesting.
in the score when the ramp is coming down. And Dreyfuss is talking about Pinocchio at the start of the movie. You get the cuts while that thematic part of the score is going da 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 da. As Dreyfuss is like having the light blast him in the face, and it's just perfect. Like the score of this movie is incredible.
And the aliens have obviously seen Jaws. You certainly heard that when they were playing some of those deep notes. No question.
As far as Williams go, what are both of your favorite scores from him?
Gosh, it's like picking your favorite kids.
Okay.
Or just like one that like
gonna
really
go
stands
with,
out.
and I always want to listen to this specific motif, is when Yoda is lifting the X-Wing in Empire Strikes Back.
Yes.
Is that the
No,
That's my favorite.
I couldn't hum it right now. We need a musician like Chris on to do
that's
it
true.
right now. Yeah, that's my favorite one, I think.
I think I would go probably like if I'm going specific song, probably the end of that final 15-minute chunk of ET.
Sure.
Just like that whole orchestral set piece is just like insane.
Well,
And
the bike over the moon. I mean,
yeah,
stuff.
I would probably weirdly enough put Warhorse up there too.
I've
Okay.
never seen Warhorse, but I've heard that it's
That one I watched for the first time recently. I was like just through a chunk of some of the big Spielberg like epics that I'd missed out. Like I'd seen before that like Color Purple and Empire of the Sun, which neither of those I didn't really like either of those. And so I was just like, okay, like another just big 130 plus minute Spielberg movie. Like here we go. And it just blew me. The movie as a whole blew me away. But like Williams' score in that, it's so melodramatic. There's just so much going on to it. It's really just like emotionally intense in a way that like a lot of his newer stuff, I feel like is like he plays it a little like straight and a little quieter than he used to. And that's kind of the one time I've been like, okay, like at least that I can remember where I'm like 21st century John Williams is like really putting everything into it.
still good.
Yeah.
I would say if I were to pick like a complete movie, it would be Raiders. I love Indiana Jones so much, and just the idea in Raiders, just the way that it's shot and the script and everything, that like it could be a silent movie with just a score and you would understand everything completely. Like that's when a score is transcendent for an entire movie.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy that he just has so many scores that are just like you can hum it and just anyone is like, yes, I know what this is, even if I haven't seen these films.
I think my favorite scene in Raiders is the scene at the school where they're describing the power of the Lost Ark, and it's because of the music. It's my favorite scene because of the music of John Williams, and particularly fantastic.
Yeah, and it just adds to this kind of spectacle that we see at the end of Close Encounters. And the fact that the movie ends with Dreyfuss boarding the ship, he's made his choice. It seems like the aliens were essentially calling for him. I don't know when that particularly happened, when the aliens were like, hey, yeah, we want this guy. But it happened. It finishes up. I love the fact that in 2 of the 3 versions, he decided to kind of just leave it there, Jaws style. Why show something if you can't do it justice? Just leave it a mystery, leave it all in our heads. And I just think the ending is just about as good as you can do for this type of movie.
I really like him. I really like not seeing the inside of the ship, and I think I'm gonna, for the rest of my life, probably avoid seeing the inside of the ship for that reason. But it's like there is that allure from the audience of like you do kind of want to see what's inside. Like there's just that a general curiosity to it, and not giving you that kind of puts you in the same space as Dreyfus, where you do have a kind of little thing of like, well, what's in there? Like what's in there? Like I need to know this.
It's the same thing with like a sequel to this movie. I would love to have seen in like late 80s, 90s Dreyfus come back, and it's like him trying to explain to people what it was like on the ship for however long he was on it, and where his kind of mindset is now that he's kind of gotten the thing that he wanted through the back half of Close Encounters. But obviously, like, we know as the franchise addicts that sometimes that is a slippery slope that you don't want to go down, and you might as well just leave the movie as it is.
That's what I would do. Yeah. No, I think did he write this movie before he had kids, and didn't he say like he might he might not have made this story choice if he had children? Because this is another kind of horrifying thing to me, along with the pilots. This is a what the fuck he's leaving, and like we said, we don't know what the aliens have done to the other people, what they're gonna do to these people, and he may never see his children again. He gets divorces from his wife, but he's got kids. This is crazy. But it's like this is part of the allure of this movie. Can you believe what happened? Can you believe he got on the ship? Like this is why we talk about it.
Well, there's another fun thing that came out during an interview, and I cannot remember who the interviewer was, but this was in like the early 2000s. They were interviewing him and talking about this film, and the interviewer goes like, hey Steve, did you realize, speaking of like this is a movie about you coming to terms with your parents' divorce, and that's all throughout the movie and stuff like that, that at the end of the movie your mom, Steve, was a musician and your dad was a computer scientist, and the ship is making music using computer technology. So you're essentially combining the 2 things that your parents do and having that be the communication that is going back between the aliens and the world. And Spielberg was kind of just like, oh, I guess I never thought about that. That like he's literally subconsciously putting into the movie like, I wish my parents could just talk like this, communicate,
and they could take me and take care of me.
Yeah, and that my dad wouldn't have abandoned me by going on a ship.
Wow, good job by that interviewer. Good insight.
And so Spielberg made this when he was 29 years old. Like he
Crazy.
is like just out of control talented at this point, but to then make it as personal, like I don't think at 29 years old I could write or make any type of art that would be even touch on the amount of personal effects that he puts within this movie.
Yeah, it honestly just kind of, it's the weird kind of thing where it just like makes you feel not even bad, but just like you kind of throw your hands up and just like, what life choices do you have to make Close Encounters at 29?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's like the longevity of his career as well, where he's still.
I talk about it a little bit with Chris too, but I'll give this to you guys, that a lot of movies, especially those that are made by auteur directors and writers and stuff like that, like there is usually the movie you can kind of break down as making a movie. It just happens to have a story about other stuff. But it is about the creation of movie making, and stuff like that is buried within the characters. And the Dreyfus character very much is like, I have an image in my head of this thing that I have to get out of me. I have to make it come to life in the real world. I have to see that part of it through, that obsession with this idea in your head. And I think Close Encounters for Spielberg is that same way. He's like, I have the idea in my head. I need to get it out. People think I'm going crazy. And like he produced it, he made it, like, and I think that is kind of the through point to see as you revisit this movie over and over again, is just how much of that idea is there in there.
And once again, kind of connecting back to the Fablemans, where he's just like, I can't help but like take pretty videos of my mother. Like I can't stop myself. It's that same sort of obsession that he has with just his like just overtly beautiful brand of filmmaking.
And speaking of obsession, let's get into our obsessive part, which is where we give awards for Close Encounters of the Third Kind. So we are kicking it off with our award for our favorite scene from this film. Zach is our guest. Get us kicked off with your favorite scene from Close Encounters.
I think it has to be some part of the ending. I'm not going to take the full final set piece. I'll take when the ship first lands.
Nice.
When you're seeing the massive mothership land and all the other smaller ships kind of flying through that space. I'll take that portion of the ending.
There's this really cool shot when it's kind of pulled back a little bit, but they're on the rocks, and it looks like they're using miniatures and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But the people in the top right hand corner on the like landing pad are like moving, and like, so thinking about how they're splicing that together with film to do that in certain parts, and like the blocking and the setting up of everything that you have to do to make that work is like, you're like, 1977, what are we doing?
Unbelievable. And like everything with the ships too is just like technically, like you're looking at them just like, I don't know how you physically do this in 1977. And a lot of that too, like what you were saying, like I think probably a good bit of that is like matte paintings and like using forced perspective and stuff. And it plays incredibly seamlessly. And it is, I think, that perfect blend of that wonder and horror at just everything around them and all of that unknown.
Peter, your favorite scene?
I'm definitely going to go with the scene of the abduction of the boy. Luke, you mentioned it approaches horror. I don't think it approaches horror at all. It is pure horror. This is, and well, there's like a little bit of like silliness of like the fridge gets raided in a scene like before that. That's a little bit of E.T., but the scene where he gets abducted I was like edge of my seat. It is like Spielberg, before he thought of Poltergeist, which he was possibly going to have that be about aliens and not about ghosts. So this is like the bones of Poltergeist in there, and Poltergeist is one of the scariest movies ever. I know he didn't direct it, but rumors is that he did kind of half direct that movie, which I love that movie. So definitely the abduction scene, pure horror, fantastic.
Yeah, and since the ending's been covered, we've talked about the scene at the dinner table with the mashed potatoes. I'm gonna go back to the scene in India. I think that just as a set piece is just really, really cool. The colors are awesome. I love bringing in the idea of aliens being kind of a religious entity for those so inclined to see it that way. So, these probably Hindus or whatever religion they're currently practicing, seeing this amazing thing come out of the sky and make this sound, and then it becomes a part of their religious practice, a part of their meditative practice, and just waiting for it to come back because it has to mean something. And through song, continuing that meaning forward. It's just a really cool thing that you kind of just throw into the first 15 minutes of this movie, and it's blew me away.
Yeah, the colors in that scene you mentioned that are so cool though, and it's neat that they they just contrast the rest of the movie where it's all like the yellows and greens and all that versus
very much like the chase through the bazaar in Raiders, where you're getting a couple of those pullback shots and seeing the town over top and all the colors and all the stuff of the market and stuff like that in Raiders. Again, watch these two movies back to back. I've watched them recently enough with covering Raiders only a couple months ago, and I was just like, oh my gosh, like he keeps on elevating. He's like, I had this idea, I'm going to do it again, but I'm going to do it a little bit different and better. And he's just the best at putting exactly what the viewer wants to see within the frame. Favorite performance of the movie? Not many to pick from. Peter, let's kick it off with you.
I did not know that Melinda Dillon was nominated, and she rightfully so should have been. She is my best performance. She's not in this movie very much, and she does so much with very little, I should say, movement of expression of her face, but she holds that sad, terrified look just in the subtlest of ways. And I was frankly way more interested in her story and her abducted child, way more than Dreyfus. Dreyfus gave a good performance, but I thought hers was better. I thought hers was the best.
Zach?
I'll also go Melinda Dillon. I typically don't love Dreyfus as kind of the alternative lead here. Like if you watch him in Always, I think that's like a kind of clear instance of Spielberg miscasting him. And I think he's really solid here. Like he's not as like almost like fun to hang out with almost, and he's putting a lot of his emotions on other characters. So like I find like Terry Garr and Melinda Dillon like much more interesting just to like be in their vicinity. And Melinda Dillon, like I think she, like you said, Peter, she doesn't have like a ton of dialogue either. She's like a very like sparse character, and her performance adds a lot of texture to that character.
I'm with you that Dreyfus is. I do think he's cast well, but he's like a dweeb, and he's not a good.
Yeah, no,
king,
he definitely
and he
like,
says
he's
stuff
a
like
good
"you turkey."
cast. Yeah.
So since we're talking about, I told Peter we would get into some casting what ifs for the Dreyfus role. So Dreyfus, not the first person that was going to be in this role. Steve McQueen was number one on Spielberg's wish list.
He's too cool.
Well, he read the script,
Yeah.
not the Brian De Palma one, but he read what was going to be turned into the movie and was like, Steve, this is incredible. One problem, I cannot cry on command. So I don't think I can give you the emotional depth for this role. There's also a crazy story about, them just sitting down, like taking him to this bar and talking about the script and everything. And McQueen, like there's a bar fight that happens and McQueen like almost gets up to get involved in the bar fight and is like, whatever, I'm supposed to be a tough guy, but I don't.
Yeah, like Roy's character isn't someone who's like intentionally just like joining into bar fights.
No.
Yeah, and so then Pacino and Nicholson were obviously asked, just like Brad Pitt and Tom Cruise are basically asked to be a part of any role. That was the time period for those guys. And then who I think would have been fantastic in this, and I don't remember the reason why he didn't take it, was Gene Hackman. I think Hackman would be incredible in this. Kind of, Dreyfus might be the poor man's Hackman in some ways, but I think Hackman is just able to, he's one of the best actors to ever do it. I think he would have been, different movie, but I think special. And I have a super soft spot for Dreyfus. One of my favorite comedies of all time is What About Bob? And he is just so good at playing the asshole. Like, he's just incredible at it.
Not a good hand, but well cast.
I remember watching that movie younger and just being, I hadn't seen a bunch of Dreyfus movies, and I'm like, who the hell is this guy? This guy sucks. I hate him so much. And my mom was just kind of like, that's the point. Like, this guy was a movie star. He was incredible. For him to take this role and act that way is like, it was cool for them to see that. So I also love Mr. Holland's Opus quite a bit too. So I'm a big Dreyfus fan. Although,
yeah, he has a very like distinct kind of look and feel to like everything he does. Like,
obviously Jaws too.
Yes.
And so yeah, this is a great, if you can't stand Dreyfus, I would say you should be able to come around on him on Close Encounters and Jaws at least, and then throw in What About Bob as your kind of wild card. Did I give a performance? Oh, I'm going to give it to Bob Balaban.
Nice.
I think he's really good, especially with Truffaut basically saying, I'm not going to speak English in this movie until he just miraculously does at the end, even though he's like, I don't know English very well, but I'm going to give it to you. But him as the translator, him as the guy that was the cartographer that realizes that these are coordinates that are being sent. He's just really good at kind of being our audience surrogate for those particular scenes as we're kind of bopping around the world.
Yeah, that whole set piece you mentioned as well, like, like that could be a contender for best scene too, where like they're like pulling the globe in from the other office. All that is incredible.
And I love the beard on Balaban.
The beard is great. The beard is really, really solid, especially like that first shot of him when you first see it.
Yeah. I immediately was like, whoa, I forgot that he's in this, and there he is, the Nazi man himself, the Nazi man in black. MVP of the movie, Zach, kick us off.
I think I'll go Vilma Sigmund, the cinematographer for this film.
Nominated and won.
I love all of his work so much. Like Long Goodbye and Blowout.
Oh, Blood is
but
incredible.
insane. But I think this just like is unequivocally the most beautiful thing he shot.
Yes.
It is just a stellar looking movie. I watched the 4K of it, and all of that just beautiful texture like really just comes through on that. And there's just, he gets like the Spielberg quality of like how he moves the camera and everything, but it is just like a much more still approach to that, which I really, really love. How there's like that, you can feel the patience that the camera is moving with.
Yeah. Peter?
I'm gonna at first go least valuable player. That's gonna be the editor. Was Marsha Lucas too busy editing Star Wars that she couldn't come in on this project? Because we know that she can save a movie at the last minute. But I think my MVP is gonna have to be Dr. J. Allen Hynek. Spielberg consulting with him to try to get these different aspects.
He's also in the movie.
Is he like just a cameo in the background?
He's smoking a pipe as the they cut to him as the ship's landed.
It's badass.
He's in that crowd.
He's the OG of ufology, and he, like, his conclusion by the end of all of his studies of all the reports is they certainly could not explain what they saw. He could not explain what they saw, and the observers could not explain what they saw, but he was definitely sure that they experienced something, and they definitely
Didn't he get into
that.
kind of the interdimensionality of aliens, that they aren't actually in our dimension, and so that's why certain people see them, but other people in that same spot don't see them, and you have to have like that they are coming through from a different dimension. They're not necessarily coming from a different planet.
Right, and that's something that is touched on in all of the deep dives into UFOs. Is we experience things in the third dimension, and like Dr. Carl Sagan explains it very well. If there was a two-dimensional world and they saw something zip through their world in three dimensions, they wouldn't understand how to perceive it, and it's that kind of thing, and you become obsessed with it. Also emotionally, like there's great stories of while an observation is happening that people's thoughts are being manipulated to like remain calm or to be okay with what they're seeing, and then afterwards there's a whole bunch of processing that happens, and that's where the obsession comes in. So I gotta say Dr. J. Allen Hynek is the MVP for the accuracy of this kind of a story.
And they also utter the famous UFO line that is always has to be present anytime you're talking about a UFO story. I know what I saw!
That's the name of a documentary, I believe. A famous documentary. I know what I saw. There's another good alien line, and it's if it bleeds, we can kill it. Have you heard that one before?
We've covered that one in gross detail and just length of
Too much.
How long the Predator franchise is, and boy oh boy do we have another one that we still have to record on Predator Badlands. Have you seen Predator Badlands, Zach?
I didn't love it. It felt kind of like a Star Wars TV show.
Yay! That's what I think I mentioned that on our last Predator episode when we were talking about covering that one. I'm like, is this a Disney movie?
Yeah, obviously, like, they did, I guess at this point, technically produce it because they own Predator now because it's a Fox deal. But, like, it really just, like, the whole production and just, like, the look and feel of it is just, like, this is a Mandalorian spinoff or something that I'm missing out on. Yeah.
This is what you're talking about. You mentioned cinematography. It's just like these movies and shows now just, like, have two characters talking and then, like, a blurry CGI background, and there's no depth to what you're seeing. And just
and it looks like everything is shot on that, like...
Amazing.
Everything looks like it's shot on that Marvel, like
the
Void or whatever they call the volume. Yeah.
Which is cool, but it just gets the same kind of look, you know?
Yeah. Go to locations, film on locations, do that, all that sort of stuff. My MVP of the movie is John Williams. I don't think much needs to be said about that. I think that the score is an all-timer. Even for Williams, the fact that he went back-to-back 6 months previous with Star Wars A New Hope into this film. Some more lore about how Spielberg and him came up with the score. They apparently went through 300 different 5-note combinations before they settled on the one used in the film. And then you hear that theme throughout all different parts of the score. I think it's just genius level stuff, but that's kind of what we come to know John Williams for. Ratings, Zach, give us your rating out of 10. I know you're usually a 1 through 5 guy, but
yeah, Out of 10, I'll go 10 out of 10. I think on rewatch, this is my favorite Spielberg.
All
It's
right.
up there with like, it's this, Raiders, Schindler's are probably like the three in contention for the crown. But I just love how esoteric and strange and emotionally vulnerable this movie is. And I think it's his masterpiece.
I can definitely see that after this rewatch. Before I rewatched this, I probably would have had it below the top five, and I think it's creeped into his top five for me.
I had it, yeah, before also. I think at like 7 or 8 or something like that. Yeah.
Peter, your rating. This is
I
the
am
big
gonna
one.
be I'm gonna be the hater of this. Everything that you guys say is just fantastic, and then there's just big, just terrible chunk of this movie. I swear to God, this movie could be 20 minutes shorter. The gas masks and the military, one too many scenes of building with the mashed potatoes or whatever, not specifically the mashed potatoes, but just I don't know, just whole things could be completely cut out of this movie. So I'm giving it a 7 out of 10.
Well, Peter, he did make that movie. It's called E.T. and
Yeah, I wouldn't
he
give
did it
that
a couple
7
years
out of
later.
10. It's phenomenal.
And I think that E.T. and Close Encounters being so close to each other, just when they were made, E.T. kind of overshadows Close Encounters, because when you
Big
think
time.
of Spielberg and
sure.
aliens and stuff like that, you're like, oh yeah, E.T. obviously, and you kind of
Yeah.
overlook Close Encounters as a result of it. My rating out of 10 is 8.7. I think this is one of the better movies that we've covered. Obviously, we had to create our own franchise to weasel it into our theme that we normally have for the podcast. But that's going to be happening a lot more along this run because we have some of my favorite movies. I'll give a spoiler. Arrival is one of my favorite movies of the 2010s. It just flat out is. I love Villeneuve, and I think that is his master. Well, gosh, I just rewatched Dune 2, and I'm like, is that his masterpiece? I don't know. We still have Dune Messiah coming out, so that might even be better. But Arrival kind of came out of nowhere, and I saw it in theaters and was just absolutely floored by it. I think it's one of the best things that's come out in the last 20 years.
It's especially weird for him as like a sci-fi director because he really didn't do. I guess the closest was his movie before that, Enemies. But even that isn't like super like hard sci-fi. Or actually, Sicario before that. But yeah,
Yeah, Sicario, which is
yeah,
also, again, one of the best movies in the last
incredible.
20 years.
Yeah.
And then Day of the Soldado happened. Any final thoughts, Zach or Peter, on Close Encounters, and then we will wrap this up.
I don't really have any final thoughts on that, but you've kind of got some themes to these alien ones. If you listeners out there want to add a terror theme, you should watch Fire in the Sky. Have you guys watched that movie?
No, I don't think
Fire
I've
in
heard
the
of
Sky
that.
is a early 90s movie and is a true story about a guy named Travis Walton who in the 70s
Oh,
in
the Walton
Arizona,
story.
he was a logger who was abducted by aliens, and it is his story, and it's absolute. I saw it as a little kid, so it's absolutely terrifying.
Maybe that's
Still
why
is.
I've never watched it, because I've listened to a podcast about his entire experience with that.
You should watch it. They take some liberties about how he says he felt during the abduction and do some things visually and physically to try to portray that, but it's so scary. It's so good. And I think Robert Patrick's in it. He's
Oh,
good.
I love Robert Patrick.
He's not the guy. He's not Travis Walton who gets abducted, but he's another character in it.
What was the military base in England that had the UFO sighting? Do you remember that off the top of your head, Peter? For
You
some
have to
reason,
go
I'm
back to
failing.
your
I'm
last
failing to remember.
podcast on the left.
Yeah,
I can't remember that one.
but that particular sighting and all of the stories and kind of debriefings afterward, that is the one that I believe in the most. That
Really?
happened, and though they had those experiences, like
Yeah.
the Betty and Barney Hill is kind of the famous one, but
Yeah.
that kind of turns into like two people kind of having a delusion between each other and feeding off of each other's delusion, even though
You
they're
think so? But why would an interracial couple back in the '60s want to draw attention to themselves?
But
I feel
that
like
is always
Yeah.
always the stand, at least the modern standpoint of people looking back on some of the famous stories is like, well, why would they say it? They knew their life was going to get ruined anyway. And it's like, well, I don't know how much more credence that gives to what actually occurred. And there
it's all
are,
part of the story.
yeah, I mean, it is what it is. I kind of lop that in with other mass delusions that are more
We brushed over the part in Close Encounters where the guy goes, "I saw Bigfoot once. He was this tall and he walked like this."
I love when he pushes the
Loved
thing
it.
to show the size of the foot. Unbelievable
Yeah.
stuff from that guy.
I think that scene actually might be Dreyfuss's best work because you can see like the life just like drain out of his face, and he's just like,
Shut
he's
up.
like, we're done. He's like, we're
They're
done.
all
Like, hey, like,
super crazy.
yeah.
Well, people can call me crazy since I believe in Bigfoot and aliens, but we can talk about
I don't believe in
that some
Bigfoot,
other
but
time.
I do believe in aliens. I think
All right.
Bigfoot is a hoax that people that are very sad and have nothing else to do with their lives go out and search for. This
No, I've
quest
never
that can
searched
never
for
be
Bigfoot,
accomplished.
but it's a fun thing to think about.
Thank you guys for joining me on the Close Encounters episode. Thank you, Peter. And Zach, give a shout out to all the stuff that you do online and where people can follow you.
For sure. I'm on Zach on Art House on both TikTok, Substack, and Letterboxd as well, so you can find me under that name on all 3 sites. Yeah.
Awesome. You've been awesome getting a lot of... It is nice to have a fellow like cinematography file who likes talking about how shots are set up and stuff like that. I know Peter and Chris...
Spielberg makes it easy.
Yeah, he does. You guys usually will allow me to talk through those things, but it is nice to have someone appreciate that side of it a little bit more. Fantastic stuff. We will be continuing on. Our 90s film, like I said, is going to be Independence Day, so join us for that. That is the big blockbuster of the 90s.
Fantastic. Can't wait.
All right. Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Zach.
Listen, here's the truth. If it's not something you love to do, automation is mandatory. You didn't start your podcast to spend hours editing clips. You started it to create, connect, and grow your audience. But here's the problem. Every other platform works with video podcasts, and manual editing eats up your most valuable asset, your time. That's where Opus Clip changes everything. Upload your video, and Opus Clip will automatically find the gold nugget moments, auto-clip the captions for the best parts, perfect for TikTok, Reels, and Shorts. 1 hour-long episode becomes 10, 20, even 30 viral-ready clips in minutes. The tool even predicts each clip's viral potential, so you know exactly what to post. No more tenuous editing, no more wasted hours, just you staying in the place that you love to be, creating content that matters. Head to podnationopus.com for your free trial and get back to doing what you do best. Stop editing and start creating now.
All right. Now, part 2 of our Close Encounters podcast. We didn't have Chris on the main episode, but we are tagging him on to the back end to get his thoughts on Close Encounters. Yes. For those of you following along, listening to this and or watching it chronologically, I am actually doing this first. So my secondary reaction will actually be with the guys later tonight. So this is actually my first reaction to Close Encounters. I'll try to keep some stuff so that it's not repeat, but this will help me not to repeat stuff for the longer one that will be recorded later today. But Chris, Close Encounters, Steven Spielberg, follow-up to Jaws 1977 on the release. What were your thoughts?
So I had never seen this all the way through.
Wow.
I'd seen the beginning. Obviously, like, you know about this film, but like, I don't know. It was actually kind of a blind spot. I thought it was great. I loved it. I was worried too, like, because I remember seeing the beginning and I was like, yeah, this isn't bad. I got all the way up to like Mashed Potato Mountain. And I was like, yeah, but I wonder, like, will this hold up? Will this just be a film that's like important, but then when you watch it in 2026, you're like, okay. But no, I thought it really holds up shockingly well for 49 years old. It's 49 years old. That's crazy. And it really does something very specific and very unique as far as an alien invasion movie. You know, the ideas of, well, I mean, we can get into it, but yeah, the ideas of it having just kind of be like a meditative, amazed experience, a calming experience even. Like, I don't know, like that's just not the usual playbook.
Yeah, I think meditative is a good way to think about it, because this isn't like, well, the movie that we'll be doing second on this Independence Day. This isn't a aliens come, cue the military, we got to blow them up, we got to be shooting back and forth with them. This is very, you know, like awe and wonder and people looking up to the sky, like, what is this? Did I actually see what I saw? and kind of going through that process of it. And even to the end where, Dreyfus is literally getting on the ship in anticipation because these people are curious about this thing. They're like, this is the craziest thing that's ever happened to us. Why wouldn't I jump on board a ship just to see what this is all about? It is a very different type of alien invasion movie. And it's cool that this is the first one that we're talking about within this created franchise that kind of kicks everything off with a, not necessarily with a whimper, but just with a slow meditative look at this genre.
Yeah. I mean, look at, the posters behind you, right? Alien, it's horrifying. These
comes
aliens
out 2 years later.
Yeah, and even before this, aliens had been
Star Wars comes out literally the year before this.
Same year.
6 months, yeah, 6 months.
That's insane. As far as like having these two movies come out the same year, obviously a lot of space here. But Star Wars, yes, does Star Wars have aliens? It does, but also, I feel like it's so much not in the real world.
Yes.
Like it's not. And this harkens back to the Roswell and everything that, that started in the 40s, right? Like we had all that stuff. I was actually listening to a book on tape yesterday, not expecting this at all. But lately, how I go to sleep, you might ask, how do you go to sleep lately? I listen to audiobooks about potential CIA conspiracies. What? Did Jesse Ventura?
I go to sleep listening to World War II podcasts. So
this is where we're at.
I'll wake up and be talking about Nazi Germany or Stalingrad or something gruesome like that, and I'm like, oh, hey, we're awake.
Part of aging as a white man. We're just into history. I don't know. But the CIA stuff, whatever. But point being is so they get into that, and obviously in the 40s, right? I mean, it is who the hell knows what. But that was when there was a lot of activity.
And Lucas, who wants to do sci-fi, but he takes it into a galaxy far away. It's in our world. Spielberg is the ultimate everyman director. Like he likes looking at everyman, putting them in fantastical situations. See Indiana Jones or any other Spielberg movie, E.T., Jaws. But he is the perfect director for this type of movie, and then just really pours in all of the lore, all of the UFO sighting type stuff that has existed in pop culture in America for a handful of years. There's UFO sightings, Roswell, and all that sort of stuff is happening late 40s, 50s. Betty and Barney Hill, I believe, is before this too. And so you're getting these stories that are becoming a part of American culture about UFOs. And I love the scene when the air traffic controllers are asking them, do you want to report a UFO? Do you want to report a UFO? And all the pilots are like, people that report UFOs are considered to be insane people. So I'm going to pass.
Which, I mean, we get to play into that more later.
Yeah.
This book that I was listening to just essentially made the point of yes, this stuff was around in the 40s and in the 50s and all that. But this movie, the release of this film totally jump-started and revitalized the UFOs are among us in popular culture. And then, right, we have, and yes, there was Star Wars, but this is different, right? This is alien invasion, blah, blah, blah. This really kickstarted it. And how insane that this is someone's second film after Jaws.
29 years old.
Yeah, that's pretty. What did I do by the time I was 29? Not that.
I also wasn't 27 coming off of Jaws, and everyone in Hollywood was like, make whatever movie you want.
Getting a blank check by that age.
Yeah,
who's this? Ari Aster?
So I do want to ask, do you know what version of the film you saw?
No, and I was listening to the pod on a different podcast about this on the way down. I bought it off of Prime.
So did I, and they had the 3 options available on Prime. I don't know if you looked specifically.
I didn't. There was no inside of the spaceship.
Okay, so it was either the theatrical or the director's.
Yeah.
Did it have the freak out scene with him in the shower? Then you saw the theatrical.
Yeah. 2 hours and 30 minutes.
Yeah. Honestly, I believe I looked at the run times for all of them, and they were within 10 minutes.
Yeah.
So the director's really it cuts some stuff and adds others. So what happened and I'm sure I've gone through this already, so I apologize to the audience, but 77 theatrical is released, but they were kind of rushing Spielberg. So they're basically like, hey, it's November 1977. Like, this is when it was, this is what's due. Like, what do you got? And he's like, I got this. And they then plan to re-release it in 80. And they're like, Spielberg, what can you add to this? Kind of seems like the audience wants to go on the ship. He's like, all right, we'll shoot a scene on the ship. That's the special edition, then gets released in 80. And then he kind of kicks himself. He doesn't like it. He thinks it's kind of, goofy.
Did you happen to see that? Did you see Inside the Ship?
I have never seen Inside the Ship. I've never had a desire. I believe I've only seen the theatrical before.
Yeah.
And this is one of those movies where I have only seen the first hour or so a handful of times, and then I've seen like the last 40 minutes basically when the ship arrives, like over and over again.
Really? So it's kind of almost the opposite of what I had.
Yeah.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, because it just seemed like anytime I switched to this movie, or someone, like when I was in college and someone may have been watching it, I always caught the back end of it. But 96 is when the director's comes out. He takes out going back on the ship, because that kind of has become the lasting kind of thing from this movie, is that there is a level of knowledge that you get about the spaceship and all that sort of stuff that's limited. Like, we don't go on the ship. We kind of see the aliens at the end. We don't really know what their mission is. It's kind of just all like, yeah, we'll see.
We're spreading jazz.
Yeah.
We're spreading colorful music.
Playing tuba.
By the way, okay, quick thing that I put in my notes. The "you got this wrong" sound effect from The Price is Right. Do you know what that is? Like,
Yep. Yeah.
the same instruments used on this alien spaceship. Bum bum. But
So
that's the type of note that I take. But yeah, those we can get into the whole music as the thing.
You could almost do an entire podcast just about the score of this movie and its impact. Yeah. And I mean, John Williams, again, just the GOAT of all GOATs. So him and Spielberg met like a year before and went through 300 different 5-note combinations.
Really?
Till they settled on this one. And then Williams produced the score, and Spielberg like edited the movie based on the score.
Really?
Like, that's how much affection he had for the Williams score and everything. There is also, this is the first time that I noticed it, I'm like, Williams, you dog. In the final scene, like when the doors are opening and like Dreyfus' face, getting the full beam of the light and everything, he's just looking lovingly at this thing. There is the theme from Pinocchio, When You Wish Upon a Star. He is incorporating it into the Close Encounters theme. And you hear it a couple of times, and I'm just like, Williams, unbelievable. Dreyfus is talking about taking him to Pinocchio. This is all like, the wonder about losing your mind, like going to a new world, experiencing new things. Like, Williams is 1977, just on another level.
He is. Did you catch the Jaws theme in there?
I'm sure it's in there. Like,
I mean, it's 2 notes, to be fair, but like
right, yeah, because when it finally slows down and it is about to, it's doing the bam bam.
They do some Jaws. That's a little throwback, but yeah, I mean, I guess before we get into maybe like the spectacle that is the end, is the last 20 minutes, is like maybe talking about the gritty beginning and how this is a movie about like a struggling marriage and people that are just in like really stuck in a kind of a bad, not horrifically bad, not Sean Baker bad, but like just like a shitty, like, a snag in life, not connecting as husband and wife. Dreyfus, Roy, does not necessarily want to be a father. I don't fucking, like, he is, Spielberg's famously, and I'm sure you know this too, said it, like, if he would have done this after having kids, he's like, oh no, I wouldn't have done it this way. Because Dreyfus is not really a great dad.
Oh, Dreyfus, as soon as his family leaves and he has that conversation on the phone with his wife, is just like, all right, well, I'm just going on my own adventure now.
I'm out of here. He's just like, the minute that those aliens came. But Yeah, and of course the whole, this, I'm sure you guys have already talked about this, the Spielberg absent father, family dynamics, broken family, all of that that happens pretty much in
Well,
every movie. Yeah.
and so at the making of this movie, and is talked about in the movie The Fablemans, he's blaming his father at this point for the dissolution of the marriage, for the breakup, and later on finds out that it is more his mom's fault, who is having an affair. And so, this is him with a dad he thinks abandoned his family, much like Dreyfus is abandoning his family here. This is what dads do. They go crazy. They start doing their own thing. They start ignoring their family. And then they, get on a ship and you never see him again. Like,
I heard that
that's,
there was, yeah, no, 100. There was a fourth version of this made where at the end the mom actually sleeps with the alien. Oh no, that's what did it. Oh my God, mom. She, by the way, Oscar nomination for Best Supporting Actress. I don't know her name off the top of my head, but the woman that plays his wife got the nod, and it won for cinematography. I got
and
that.
Dreyfus won Best Actor for a different film in this year.
Fuck. I
Yeah.
love it when that happens. Yeah, it was a strong time in cinema, obviously. I mean, the 70s are amazing for that. But so yeah, I mean, it's dark, and you think it's Spielberg, right? And you're like, Spielberg is never dark. Like, come on, like he's the king of the popcorn flick. And I don't know, do you think this can't be the darkest Spielberg, but like it's in the conversation? It
Well,
just as far as,
especially, yeah, early Spielberg. Like, obviously, Schindler's List is very dark.
I mean, I should have let, but yeah, not the happiest.
Minority Report's not the happiest
Little
topics.
Little
Yeah.
dark with the precogs.
But
yeah,
I think somebody brought this up in the Rewatchables episode on this, but how close E.T. is to coming out to this kind of overshadows Close Encounters a little bit.
Yeah.
Because E.T. is like oh yeah, show this to your 8-year-old, they'll fall in love with it. Like it's, a great kids movie, whereas Close Encounters is like not a kids alien movie.
yeah, it's like a PG art film.
And it's for like people in their late 30s, like early 40s that are like looking back on being a parent and what it like basically having these ambitions and stuff. You can see Dreyfus when he's working with his model trains and stuff like that, like has some greater goal or idea of himself, and yet he's just like this power line worker in Muncie, Indiana.
Yeah,
And as soon as he gets that call, that extraterrestrial call, that idea stuck in his head, he's like, none of this matters. Like, I want to be something greater to this higher calling that I'm being called to. So it is a, like you said at the beginning, a meditation on like what it's like to be 35 living in Muncie, Indiana, and just like severely depressed about the situation that you're currently in, and something out of this world happens and you become obsessed with it.
yeah, and finding your purpose, or yeah, like finding something that makes you feel like you are special, or that is an escape. I mean, it's an escape for him, but it's also something that he feels is very important. I know that we were talking, you guys probably talking about obsession, and that's, I think, maybe where the darkness peaks, maybe? Like, when he gets so upset and he starts to literally act like an unhinged, dangerous, mentally ill person for a while. That's our hero doing that, and that's kind of dark. And so, I mean, what do you think it's saying about obsession, right? Like, you think this is a bit like, Spielberg he's an up and coming director. Obviously, he's already made it. I don't even know if we can call him that, but like a potential meditation on like, his obsession with like, this higher calling that he has, and like, I don't
Just
know.
movie making in general, like the
Yeah.
creation of these images, the telling of these stories. Because he's just a kid from, a Jewish kid from Arizona that got obsessed with filmmaking and then realized, well, I'm sure he didn't realize, but people realized immediately this kid's a prodigy and just has an innate sense for this, much in the way that Dreyfus has this picture in his head of this mountain that he has to recreate. Like this is this thing, and I will literally rip my yard apart and tear neighbors' yards apart to get this image in my head into reality. And that's basically what making movies is like, I have this idea in my head, and now I need to take all of these things and put them so that I can put a camera in front of it and recreate this thing in my head.
It's so, yeah, I mean, it's all, and I mean, at least in this phase, and probably continuing on in his career, so like self-reflexive or reflective or whatever.
Yeah.
Even in ways where like maybe he's like not aware of all of it, but of course the family stuff. And then, yeah, I mean, that's a great point of like people, you know, exactly filmmaking. Here's something in my head. I need to make this happen. I need to act crazy and dump a bunch of plants out, smash windows, and do stuff that makes me look like an insane person, but I'm driven. I have this great end goal, and it's, I mean, and it turns out for Richard Dreyfuss, like, and he's right, and he realized it. Even if we think it's weird that he leaves his kid and all that, like,
that's the thing too, is that it can be both. There can be cognitive dissonance that's occurring here where like he is a horrible dad and a horrible husband and is doing things that are detrimental to his family, but yet the movie is so careful that you to some extent understand it. Like, this is something that's never happened. This is inexplicable. And so to be caught up in that is not, you know, not like out of bounds for him to do.
How about the this product placement, which is like for like
product placement
for a beautiful, wonderful film. In the beginning, you're like, that's a lot of fucking McDonald's. Like,
shout out the pig, man, Piggly Wiggly.
Oh, is there Piggly Wiggly in there?
Yeah, there's a big Piggly Wiggly on one of the semis. Because they're using that to, like, as cover while they're taking all their stuff out to the mountain the military is and stuff like that. But yeah, big Piggly Wiggly sign.
But yeah, and then, so I mean, let's see if I have anything else about, like, the beginning. I mean, of course, yeah, go for it.
So I think the train track scene where Dreyfuss gets in the truck because he's called out and he's looking at the maps and stuff like that, and then has the experience where the ship comes over the top of him, he gets the bright light, he's kind of getting sucked up, everything in his car is exploding. I think is like, that's where the movie then just starts kicking into gear.
Yeah, it is even, there is a bit of a, do you think the pacing is good?
I think the pacing's excellent.
Okay.
There's definitely like slow parts and stuff that you could be okay to like look away and be on your phone and stuff like that, but I think it always catches back up. And there's a lot of compelling stuff in those slower parts and stuff, like leading up to the mashed potato mountain. As you're sitting there, it's like, it's just a dinner table scene. It's not like anything crazy is going on except for him when he finally then you realize that in front of his family, he's like not there anymore. Like, he's just gone. And then the whole breakdown after that too is just incredible. The like, you know, I'm still dad. Like, I know what I'm doing is weird, but like I'm just obsessed. There's something in my head and I have to get it out.
What do you take about the boy being abducted? Like, old Barry.
So
little Barry, very cute, adorable kid.
Yeah, a lot of fun facts that I'm sure I've already given out, but for this one, I'll just tell you that Stanley Kubrick loved this kid so much that he was going to play Danny Torrance in The Shining.
Really?
And the kid chose another movie.
He was more grounded. Like, I don't know about this one.
Red Rob.
Yeah, I'm just the joyous child that gets happily abducted by aliens. Everything's cool with this kid. He loves it.
Mrs. Torrance, Danny's not here anymore.
Fuck.
I hope we get to do The Shining sometime on this show, because I will just do it all in evil Danny Torrance voice.
A lot of evil Danny. And I'll do it all in Jack.
And Peter will do it all.
And Shelley, what's her name? Duvall? What's her name?
No, Shelley Duvall's the actress.
Shelley Duvall.
Did I just say her name? I don't remember.
Getting really scared the whole time and scream. Yeah, I don't know if there's anything really, like, as far as like the child is lost. I don't know. But
it does add the childlike wonder to it, because he exclaims, like, when he sees it, like, toys, and like he's just seeing, like, I think he says ice cream at one point because he's relating it to like the ice cream man or something, these lights and stuff like that. And I could see, like a 3-4-year-old that's just like this looks cool. I want to chase these lights that are in the sky that I've never seen before. Like, why not?
Also, obviously, I mean, Spielberg did this accidentally in Jaws, but the use of not showing us everything, showing us different things, like the toys coming to life, like just the lighting, and then of course at the end we get the big reveal, but doing so much without with so little, more or less, right? Like a master at that. Really cool. And some definite horrifying scenes, kind of like in the kitchen, I think, like when everything starts going insane and like that's legitimately kind of scary.
Well, and even just like the family stuff, when he's in the shower and his wife's just like screaming at him and his oldest son is like, I hate you, I hate you, I hate you.
Yeah.
Like, it's just devastating because and Dreyfuss plays it super well where he's just like, I don't know what's going on. Like, he's not trying to fight. He's not really yelling back or anything, but his family's just like, what is going on with you?
Yeah. Like, I feel like the fact that he's 29 years old speaks a little bit to the tone because, like, it's not that severe. Like, it's dark, but, like, they lose a kid. Like, their kid, for all intents and purposes, is, like, taken away and killed by aliens.
Well,
And
Gillian's child, that's a separate family. Barry's not Dreyfuss's son.
Whoops! Sorry, someone was on their phone.
A little bit of a love triangle going on, but yeah, two separate houses. Barry and his mom. She is not married, and then Dreyfuss has his family. Then they come together, Barry's mom and Dreyfuss, and that is how they connect. Because he almost runs over Barry on the road in his truck early in the movie when they're kind of up on that mountain pass thing, or at least
I think that's honestly where I don't know. Like when you're not. I was locked into the end was mesmerizing. The beginning
the end is mesmerizing.
I was in, but I was like, I don't know, all these kids, they look
It kind of reminded me of the start of The Exorcist, where you're like just in a desert and there's sand blowing everywhere and you're like, what is going, like, why are we doing so much intro? Where's my main character? What's going on? Why is the guy from Raiders of the Lost Ark here with a beard on? Like, why is Francois Truffaut in this movie?
Can we talk about maybe the most important cameo that exists in this film?
What's that?
Our guy, franchise addicts, beloved franchise addicts, actor, a celebrity, patron saint of franchise addicts, Lance Hendrickson.
He's got to be.
Goes up for 5 seconds.
Yeah.
Like, he's not even a big actor, I guess, at this point. He's just there. He's in the crowd, and you're like, is that Lance Hendrickson? Yes, it is. And then we move on. So, hey, Lance, it's great to have you here as well.
He's just going to keep showing up in all of our films that we cover.
Lance, man. Lucky to be there, Lance. So the ending is really beautiful and really took me for a loop because I had never seen it. First of all, the visuals on the ship look pretty fucking great. I mean, like, I get it. Like, yes.
I'll just throw this in. This whole movie looks fucking great. For 1977, I kept on being like, there is nothing made that, like, looks like this anymore. Like, this is so perfect. Like, it is 1977. The movie hasn't aged a day. I could show this to, you could probably show it to your 15-year-old and you'd be like, yeah, that's, like, he might think it's boring, but he wouldn't be like, this looks like crap.
100%. Because, I mean, they use what? Like, real model? I mean, what?
Well,
obviously,
the Spielberg thing he learns from Jaws, like, don't try and do too much. Don't try and show too much. You can just not show stuff and do stuff that you can actually make look good, and people don't care as long as, like, the story's good and keeps moving forward.
Yeah, and so I just thought that, that's all beautiful. It looks really great. You've got this amazing score, this like communication through music. It's almost like people are dying and going to heaven or whatever.
Yeah,
like
and then coming
it's this,
back,
like,
yeah.
It's just like this. We're existing on this level that's like, this is outside of everything. This is something greater than all of us, and everyone is kind of on board. And it's just this like very beautiful, and I mean, not too drawn out or anything, but a longer sequence, right, of just people just being amazed and the people coming back. And that, maybe there's a few moments like, oh, the door's opening. There's people. It's the people that are abducted and they're actually fine, or so we think at least. And then, you get the aliens. And of course, I mean, do the aliens look like good? Well, no, I guess not. But they don't look it looks appropriate.
And
And
they're not on screen for very long either, so it's not like you're staring at them being not good.
yeah, and it's kind of like done almost from afar. Like it is, and like it's got a bit of a yeah, like an artistic, I mean, obviously an artistic feel, but yeah. And then it's just that whole vibe was just something in a movie that's about dysfunction, in a movie that's about paranoia because of the government cover up and all that stuff that was,
But yeah, and it's like the government is kind of trying to cover stuff up during the course of the movie. Like they don't want to give away too much stuff, but they're not like malicious or anything. Like it's not a conspiracy movie, really. Like even when they have like the town hall and Dreyfus is just like, I wish I didn't see this. Like I'm not trying to get attention or anything. I'm just like, I saw it. What do you want me to say? And even the guy that's kind of like running that is like, hey, we get a lot of false reports about this. No one's able to take a good photograph or anything like that. So we have to kind of accept evidence as it comes to us. And, a bunch of people saying they saw something is something that we've heard over and over again. So no, we're not going to necessarily believe you, but we're not telling you you're crazy to your face yet.
yeah, I heard in the aforementioned podcast, The Rewatchables, there's no villains in this film, and there aren't.
I mean, Dreyfus is technically both the hero and the villain in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
I mean, Barry's like the hero, and his mom.
Barry and his
Gillian.
mom are amazing. So it was probably Barry's mom that was nominated for supporting.
I would imagine, yes.
She had the bigger
I don't
role.
believe it was Terry Garr. I believe it was Melinda Dillon.
Yeah.
Also, just wanted to throw out that Spielberg does go back to the well in Raiders, because Raiders is kind of a similar setup to how he sets up the ending for this movie, where you have the two male-female character looking over boulders, hiding, watching something magical that is about to happen with a group of people in front of them with a bunch of shining lights on their area. And, whether it's the Ark of the Covenant or a giant alien spaceship, here we are.
This time it'll go bad when he's doing Ragers. I had a note too about how the end is a silent film, essentially, right?
Yeah, you don't need any dialogue, really.
And there isn't much, and you don't need any, and how fucking cool. And how, I mean, of course, it's this kind of communication with this alien race, so that makes more sense. But it is, yeah, I mean, it's all just done. It's like the first 20 minutes of There Will Be Blood, last 20 minutes of Close Encounters. Not many words. Those are maybe the only two things that those films share. Great cinematography.
Obsession.
Obsession. Bad dads.
Bad dads? Yeah.
Abandon my boy. I've abandoned my child.
I've abandoned my family for the aliens.
Absolutely does. Daniel Plainview and Roy would share that. And yeah, it's great. And then, so what do you think then about the decision to have Roy get up on that ship and everyone's like, all right, it's cool. We get it. Like,
Yeah, I mean, I think they play that pretty fast and loose. Like, the script isn't really necessarily pointing to that. The Dreyfus performance obviously is. He's staring at that thing so longingly. And then they're like, it just seems like all at once, everyone's like, oh, we know what they want. They want Richard Dreyfuss to get on the ship. Yeah. And you're kind of like, wait, when did that part happen? But, whatever.
It's an interesting choice. I mean, it's like it's a choice that it's like a zag or whatever. Like, we would normally think, of course, the father has to come back and realize that he loves his wife and kid, and like it needs to be like that. And the fact, especially for a guy like Spielberg, who I think would go on to have so many films end in that way, right? Like, he's not really one for making, like, Shyamalan endings or something, or
he usually just has it all kind of work out.
Absolutely. And this one, like, you can't say, like, well, does it not work out? I don't know. Maybe it does, because maybe Dreyfus is happier and everyone will work it out. Mrs. Dreyfus will find a new stepdad for her and the kids. But it's just... I thought it was all just interesting, and like the tone of it being kind of innocent and curious and not cynical at all. It's just all very interesting, especially when the plot essentially points to or like looks at, yeah, this guy's going to go up with the aliens and this is what he wants and it's actually beautiful. It's okay. Like, it's just, I don't know, like there's like a new age aspect to it. There's just a lot of things where I think, and it benefits from the fact that their Hollywood storytelling was literally like kind of, or at least like modern Hollywood storytelling was being invented right then. Like, so as far as like the tropes to go back, like, but yeah, I mean, just very, very interesting and not what you would expect. And this beautiful, I mean, this movie did well. It was a hit.
Over $300 million with the
But like,
multiple releases and stuff like that. But yes.
but like, and there's elements of it that are popcorn movie-esque, but then there's also elements of it that are like, I mean, let's say, like, if this movie came out in 2026 and was at the Milwaukee Film Festival, didn't have any famous people in it, like, I mean, there's been small UFO movies made since then. Like, I could see this same plot being in, like, a more of an artistic UFO movie, right? Like it has that element. There's no standard beats of like, here's the evil, here's the, like it really kind of goes to the beat of its own drum.
Well, and I think then you just add in the magic of Spielberg, because if it was an art house movie with a similar plot, you're getting it from someone who's, just building their career. They may not know all the tricks of the trade quite yet and all that sort of stuff. They're probably going to be a younger filmmaker and stuff like that. And that's fine, and like that can create good movies and good jumping off points and stuff like that. The magic of Spielberg is that this is his second movie, and this is shot and created like it is a Hollywood movie that could come out at any moment. Looks fantastic. The budget looks like all the money is put in all the right spots that you can put it, and it just is so crisp. Like to just visually look at, and the pacing and all of that is very like, this is somebody who has made, a handful of Hollywood movies already.
Yeah. It's great.
Yeah, we only have a couple minutes left, so
yeah.
Let's get to your favorite scene, your favorite performance, your MVP, and then finally your rating, Chris.
Okay. Let's do, favorite scene. I mean, the whole end sequence, it's kind of a cheat, but I feel like you have to pick that. Now, it's a long-ass sequence. Like, which part are we talking about? I don't know. I was enamored by the entire ending. I can't pick a specific part, but I'll also give an honorable mention to, I guess, so Barry and his mom, when they get all that insane shit happening to them in their house, which is like the moment that the film flirts the most with a horror movie.
Yes, yeah.
I just thought that was so cool. And we're like, that's also in this movie. Like,
yeah, very poltergeist.
Yeah, and it's like for 3 minutes, it's like, oh, is this a terrifying film? And then it's like, well, not really. But it just the tone really does some wonders there. So, but yeah, I mean, the end, just everyone looking up at the goddamn thing, all the colors, all the that's what I would give it. Best performance. I mean, of course, you want to give it to Dreyfuss, probably. Who, by the way, Dreyfuss, not necessarily in our modern times known for being a big stud. We think of Mr. Holland's. We think of like he's just like a little complainy, like on a short king
and
guy.
His interview tours where he's just a crotchety old man.
Totally. But we look back at this 77 Dreyfuss and like those big blue eyes, baby.
Just
We're
doing
like, okay.
all the cocaine in the world apparently at this point of his career.
Yeah. There was the coke started to flow around this time.
Yeah.
Oh, Dreyfuss. But also Barry is great.
It's a great kid performance, and Spielberg is just the best at getting good kid performances.
Yeah, like he's really moving, and you cannot say that about all kid actors and all kid performances.
I say horrible things about kid performances in movies all the time, and this is not one of them.
Barry
is great. What a weird name for a little kid. Imagine if you ran into a little boy these days whose name's Barry, you'd be like, what?
Young Barry. Okay.
Yes.
That's all the time for sure. I think the MVP, of course, has to be Spielberg. Like, of course. You could give it to the...
Williams?
Sure, Williams, the cinematography...
won an Oscar for the cinematography.
Yeah, the effects guy, just for, I don't know, like... At the time, this was like, this was its own Jurassic Park type of shit. But no, you got to go to Spielberg. And because also, I don't know, as someone that like grew up when I grew up, obviously Spielberg's great. You also start to like get the, by the time I'm really dialed in, late 80s, 90s, you're like, all the movies are like, they're good, they're cutesy, they're hook, they're like, and to see, I mean, not that they're all like this, obviously, you know, whatever. He has some swings that are a little different, but to see this early work and to see how it kind of doesn't go over all those same Spielberg beats, while it does definitely hit a lot, it doesn't, it zags away from some, and it's ultimately just like this, yeah, this very cool, I'll say it again, like very artistic vision of like, calmness, acceptance, wonder, all of that. I mean, the obsession and like the gritty, uncomfortable, anxious stuff melts away by the end, and we've got this just beautiful thing that is so cool. And I'm so glad I got to see this, and it's a great movie. I will give it a 9.1.
What a film. I'm sure that our ratings from earlier are very similar to that. So we are starting off this created franchise with
Love
Close Encounters. We are then moving into the 90s next with Independence Day. Then we're going to move into the 2000s by tackling District 9. Then the 10s with Arrival, which is in an interview, I believe, that Steven Spielberg said that the best movie about aliens coming to Earth since Close Encounters is Arrival, in his opinion.
Also, because they kind of follow some of the same beats. Also hilarious that he said, since the one that I made.
I think he was asked the question with that like already baked in, so I don't think he was like literally patting himself on the back, but we will then close this with Disclosure Day. Spielberg's back
in the alien abduction or alien invasion saddle.
Yeah.
That'll be really interesting. I'm throwing this out there. What was the last Spielberg movie before this? Before Disclosure Day?
Fablemans.
Was it? So he's taken a little time off. Granted, he deserves it. He is an older guy.
I mean he has DreamWorks. I'm sure he's produced some stuff since then. You know, he's always thrown executive producer credits all over the place and stuff like that. But this is his first big kind of comeback to his early type movies with Disclosure Day. So
did he do War of the Worlds?
Yeah, but that was like
a remake, yeah.
So tossed between District 9 and doing War of the Worlds. We didn't want to do 3 Spielbergs, so we ended up going to War of the Worlds or District 9 instead. Mm-hmm. And I think District 9 is a more interesting movie to talk about anyway. War of the Worlds, you know, based on a classic Orson Welles story and all that sort of stuff. So it's been done. District 9, I don't know if I've ever heard a podcast on District 9 before. And that was a movie that when it came out around that time, I was at the right age for it. You know, basically graduating high school and just had my hair blown back by that one. It was incredible stuff.
Neil Blomkamp. I can't wait to talk about that one. Can't wait to talk about all these. This is such a cool idea to do these updated franchises. This is a great one. Looking forward to the next one.
Independence Day.
That's right. We will welcome everyone to Earth, bitch, at that.
Thanks, Chris.
See you, Luke.